Here we are. And this mic, I'm not sure if this is working or not. I'm going to try to use it, however. I'm trying to figure out how to make the audio better, because the last podcast in the Thoughts of Leith series was less than optimal. I did not like the way the audio sounded. There's something going on with the mics on my webcam, and I don't like it. I kind of don't like how crowded this mic makes me feel. But if this is picking up audio, then I'm going to continue to use it. If it's not picking up audio, then I'm going to figure out why the hell not. And I'm going to figure out a way to make it work the way I want it to. But here it is. Hello. Anyway, this isn't exactly an unboxing, but it is sort of a revelation of things that I have bought recently. Most of which are games, a couple of which are books. The first thing I want to bring out the books first. I've got the games on top, actually a game on top, but to hell with that. I'm not going to let the world decide what I'm going to talk about, in which order. The first thing I'm going to talk about is this fantastic book here. I say it's fantastic. I haven't actually read it yet. I'm going to read it. The reason I bought this book is because I have very vivid dreams. I don't have nightmares. As a matter of fact, I haven't had nightmares in years. I have dreams that would probably be nightmares if anyone else were dreaming them. But I have such a sort of latent lucidity in my dreams that when I'm starting to have a bad dream, I realize that I'm in a bad dream, and I just consciously wake myself up out of it, which is an incredible privilege. I understand. But I do have a lot of very vivid dreams, and a lot of dreams that have extremely what I would consider in a waking context often disturbing and alarming imagery in them. In the dreams themselves, not so much, because as I said, I have a sort of a distance from the imagery in my dreams. I often realize in the dream that this is a dream, and so therefore, when something really disturbing happens, like very often, I have a lot of dreams about, weirdly enough, large predators. Usually some kind of a large cat, like a lion or a tiger, but occasionally like a large dog or a bear. And in the dreams, normally this would be a kind of a nightmare, but in my dreams, it just becomes a sort of a thing to deal with. And I also have a lot of dreams about bizarre weather, large waves, large storms, tornadoes, and things like that, and bizarre interactions with the other people in my dreams, which of course I understand are just aspects of myself. Even when they're real people in the real world represented in my dreams, they represent something about myself clearly that those people simply express in my outward life. So I bought this book as a sort of way to give myself a way of thinking about those things, rather than just trying to work it out in my own way. It's always nice to try to get outside perspectives. Now, this book I bought because I had watched a podcast by the author of the book Sex at Dawn, whose name I cannot remember. But as I looked into, I think it was a Joe Rogan podcast, but I can't remember the name of the author of Sex at Dawn. But I had started to look into that book and saw that this book, look at me getting texts. This book was a response to that, which was attempting to correct and address a lot of what were seen as flaws in the book Sex at Dawn. And the more I read, the more I realized that I probably didn't want to read the original book, because I could get a sense of what the original book was about and what the response to the original book was by getting this book. So Lynn Saxon, you won me over, and I'm going to read your book. I'm not even going to read the original book. Well, unless I get a sense from this book that I should read the original book. But this seems like a far more interesting read, because it's going to be bringing up the issues that were in the original book and also addressing them from a critical perspective. And of course, it's a book about sex. Who doesn't want to read a book about sex? I want to read a book about sex, and I'm going to. So there are two of the books that I bought. I've also bought a couple of games recently. And one of them is a game that I saw, I believe it was on Will Wheaton's podcast. Or I don't know if he calls it a podcast. It's a show that Will Wheaton does where they play games on screen. And it's a game called Forbidden Island. And it really intrigued me at the time when I saw it played on YouTube, I believe. And I kept wanting to get it. I put it in my Amazon queue, and finally it dropped down. I believe I bought this for less than $15, 14 something. When it finally dropped down, I was like, I can't. I mean, $14. That's a meal at a restaurant. You know, it's one lunch at a restaurant, and for that amount of money, you can have a game that you can play with friends or acquaintances over and over and over again. So couldn't pass it up. I'm really looking forward to it, and it's I have a lot of games that I'm looking forward to playing once I get my house set up and have a place where I can invite people over to play board games. Now, another game that I bought recently at a game shop in Vienna, which I'm going to look it up and I'm going to post it. I'm going to post the name of it here because I like this place. I can't remember the name, but I do want to promote them because I really like the selection of games they had. They had a good selection of board games and RPGs and other sort of nerdy stuff there. So I'm going to try to promote them by putting their name. You probably see the name already. It's probably already on the screen, even though I haven't quite looked it up yet because I'm just recording this beforehand. But the game that I bought there is called Booty. And it's basically a trading game that's very similar to the game Sheriff of Nottingham, in the sense that one person is set up as a referee for each round, and they negotiate with the other players how the game's points are going to be distributed. In Sheriff of Nottingham, it's much more of an individual sort of thing. Like in Sheriff of Nottingham, one person is playing the sheriff, and each player offers a sort of a bribe or what they're trying to bring into the town of Nottingham, and the sheriff decides whether they're going to accept it or reject it or take the bribe. In this game, that role is taken up by a quartermaster who takes a group, or rather a selection of booty, and decides how it's going to be divided up. And they offer a share out, and the players can either reject the share, passing it on to the next player, or they can accept the share, and the points are distributed that way. It's a similar dynamic, but not exactly the same. I kind of like the way this game is set up. I really like, if you can see the gaming pieces, there are maps of various Caribbean islands here, and the cards have a very antique feel to them. I really like the look of this game. The look of this game is really what got me to buy it, because I was so intrigued by the sort of antique look of the game that I was like, even if I don't like the way the gameplay goes, I can always use the same pieces and the same cards and design my own game if I like. But they've done a really good job. I can't speak to the gameplay because I haven't played it yet, but I think they've done a really good job at the. I mean, look at these. Look at the islands here in this map. Look at the islands here in this. Look, it's just beautiful. It's beautifully done. And even if I don't like the gameplay, if I play it a couple of times and I decide I don't like the way that the game is played, I can use these same pieces and design my own game. And so this is definitely a game worth buying, and I really look forward to it. Now, the last thing I want to show you for this particular podcast is something that my brother bought me. I already had a podcast where I showed a gift that my brother James bought me, but my brother Judd also bought me something recently, and I should have unboxed it properly, but I didn't. I was too eager to see what it was because my brother Judd is kind of a quirky guy. He's one of these guys who's really into horror movies, and he's really into Halloween. So that sort of intrigues me. And I was so eager that I just unboxed it without doing it on video. But I want to share it with you now. And what it was a sort of Halloween or Dia de los Muertos decoration. And I've still got the little tag on it. But what it is a skeleton, a guy kissing a girl. And, you know, you can set this up for the Day of the Dead, or you can set it up for Halloween. It's just, it's a really nice, you know, it's kind of a Halloween-y horror, but it's also romantic, and it's, you know, it's kind of cute. I like it. Look at, I mean, you know, it's kind of like that that classic photo of the end of World War II where the sailor's kissing the woman in the street. You know, I just like it. It's, my brother Judd's really cool, and he always, when he does give me stuff, he always gives me really cool stuff, and I really like this, and this is definitely going to be part of my a favorite part of my Halloween decorations when I decorate for October, which is coming up soon. We're so close to the fall and winter holidays. Anyway, I want to thank you guys a lot for continuing to watch the podcast. Please check out my website, jnelsonlee.com, and if you like this sort of bullshit, constantly me just talking about my own life and the stupid stuff that I get in the mail, then subscribe to this channel for more thoughts of Lee.